Welcome back to the show. And the Business Finder talks about issues of energy and says solar energy, US-Ghana signed deal over 300 schools, 28 health facilities to benefit. And then the Old Fadama e-waste project, we're told, will create 10,000 jobs. The Daily Graphic says Cape Coast Hospital in distress threatens to deny NHIS cardholders care. Photograph of Acting Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Insurance Authority here on the front page. Utah calls for resignation of University of Education Winneba Vice Chancellor, also on the front page. And prank calls a challenge to police emergency operations. These are some of the stories I have this morning. My guest to do the talking extreme left, a member of the NPP team, Eric Chum, is with us. Good morning.
Good morning, bro.
And hope you're doing great.
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am good too. Thanks for joining us. And the member of parliament for the Sagnarugu constituency is a member of the NDC and a ranking member on Parliament's Communications Committee. Abi Fuseni is also here. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing great.
I'm not doing as great as Eric.
I see. And then
I expected that.
I see. Okay, great. A former vice chair of the CPP and a member of the Central Committee and of the CPP, Madame Rhoda Ayana, is also here with us. Good morning too. Good morning. And hope you're doing great. Thanks for your time this morning. Let's start the conversation. Winneba is not that calm yet. UTAG is asking for the resignation of the vice chair as well as the chair of the council. A press conference was held in Accra where they accused the vice chair of the vice chancellor of victimizing staff of the university who were not loyal to him. The group called for reversal of the decisions and respect of the staff of the university who were dismissed, suspended or demoted by the vice chancellor. The president of UTAC, Dr. Eric Opoku, said 23 teaching and non-teaching staff of the university had been dismissed, demoted or suspended by the Vice Chancellor for expressing dissenting views on issues at the university. He wondered why lecturers should be loyal to the Vice Chancellor, failure of which should lead to their being victimized. So that's the stance of UTAC, and you can talk about those dismissed. Professor Ephraim Avia-Insor, a local president of UTAC, Dr. Frimpong Kechiri Duku, and a former alumni, all of them, as well as Dr. Osei Sapong. So that's where the story is. UTAG asking that the Vice Chancellor resigns and the chair of the Governing Council should also step aside. Let's start the conversation. Eric, let me first of all come to you. UTAG demands, can they be met?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning to Madam Rhoda. I haven't seen her for a while. Yeah, she's looking good. It's interesting that she's feeling good, and then my good friend Honorable it's not feeling as good, but that's normal. But to start with, good morning to the viewers as well. I believe strongly that there's something fundamentally awry with the way our universities especially are run. Because this is not the first time. We had issues with, I think, KNUST in the last year or so. There have been some skirmishes in other parts of the country. There was something that was happening at the Wa Technical University at a point between lecturers and the Vice Chancellor on one side and students on one side. And there's a scam as well. What it means is that there has to be a certain attempt to find lasting solutions, especially in terms of the corporate governance structure, so that when people have a certain reason to express disquiet or are despondent about certain issues or their basic disagreements, which would happen in any human environment, then there are dispute resolution mechanisms in place. But it looks as if that normally it gets to a certain point, it gets to a head, there are issues, the universities are closed down, and the ones who actually are affected mostly are the students. And I think that we can't allow this thing to happen. I have absolutely no insight into exactly what the issues are at the EUW, but I feel that regardless of what it is, I mean, once you start from an intransigent position and you're entrenched, then basically we can't make a headway. So I think that it's imperative that the issues are brought to the fore. I know for a fact that there are a lot of work that's being done in the background. Sometimes you don't have to bring it to the public domain that things are being done to forestall a certain situation. So I feel that let them keep talking. Once you make certain...
But it looks, Eric, it looks like they can't talk now. I mean, the two, you can see you tag against the Vice Chancellor.
They can. I mean, there's a certain... Now, today I'm sitting next to him, so I'll probably attempt to come up with a proverb. You know, like in the Akan dialect, they say there's nothing that... No issue that is actually split with a sledgehammer. You understand? But people are
sorry, I have to
meant to sit around the table.
When the president attended the investiture, he told Professor Afro-Boni that there's a problem at the university, reconcile the people. Clearly, he couldn't do it. So I'm wondering how the two can talk now.
No, so I'm actually speaking from all the various factions in the matter that once you take a certain entrenched position, then it's extremely difficult to come to any kind of agreement. Now, the Vice Chancellor has certain issues with things that have happened in the university. The students are unhappy because apparently some lecturers and some university staff have been either sacked or demoted or suspended. And that's the reason why the initial disturbances actually ensued. Now you have the lecturers on one side. Now you have UTAG on one side actually supporting its members. So then you have a situation. And again, as far as I'm concerned, as we speak, the Ministry of Education is working with some other prominent people, even within the Winneba enclave, to try and find a lasting solution to the matter. Now, once these things come to the fore and we have to discuss it in the public domain, people like us also have to show a certain level of responsibility by not preferring views or trying to even say too much. Otherwise, it sort of endangers the process that has actually already been activated. I believe strongly that there's absolutely nothing in there that cannot be resolved, but in the larger scheme of things, the issue to do with our governance structures and the way some disquiet are dealt with in terms of when people are unhappy with certain things happening in our university should be dealt with. And again, I'm on the side of the students on this matter, where the students have always complained that they're not being treated as adults. You understand? So some of these students are people who have actually worked and gone back to school. They're not kids. And anybody over the age of 18, even in a second cycle and first cycle institution, the students are meant to be treated with respect because they are stakeholders. They are probably the most important stakeholders in the whole scheme of things. So when these things are happening, it's imperative that the authorities, I've been a student before and I know what I'm saying. I'm probably going to veer off a little bit, but this
quickly wrap up
autocratic
so that I get
way of running universities is a thing of the past. I mean, we should benchmark our universities with what pertains in elsewhere.
I'm grateful. Madam Rhoda, if the VC steps aside, will it resolve the confusion University of Education is embroiled in at the moment?
Good morning to our viewers. I think that I have the opinion that he should step aside. He should step aside so that at least they can get together and find some solutions. You realize that the very accusations that they had against Avoke is the very same things he's also repeating. So then you ask yourself, then what's the difference? Why did you have to get rid of Avoke? And if you have a governing council that is entrenched in their views, you know, we are staking it up with the Vice Chancellor. And then you have UTAG and the students on the other side. And then you get the Ministry of Education, you know, also teaming up with the Governing Council. After the meeting, I think there was a meeting between the Governing Council and the rest of the stakeholders. One would have thought that that would have been the beginning of a new start for them to find some answers. But instead, immediately after that, then, you know, we came out again with UTAG saying that they still wanted the VC to step aside.
Because they failed to reinstate the sacked, demoted, or suspended
23
lecturers.
people. You know, so I'm asking, I mean, how can you just at one stage decide to say that we are now investigating to see what created this problem, and at the same time say that I side with the VC? So what parameters did you use in coming to that conclusion that you felt that the VC was doing a good job with this 6 months that he's been in office, he's been able to change a few things and all that? So I think that the VC must step aside. Let's get some independent body, if possible, to look into the grievances of the sacked or suspended or whatever, or demoted people, and then let's have a dialogue. You know, because like Eric is saying, students in the university are not primary school kids. They are stakeholders, and as it sits now, they have a problem because the curriculum then gets truncated, and then it creates a whole lot of problems. And then I'm saying that sooner than later we're going to have another tranche of students coming out. Already we're being told that there are about 400,000 students that are going to come out, and out of that 400,000, there's only 120 that is going to get admission. So if you don't settle this matter properly, then it means that these people are going to be at home, and then by the time that the next academic year is around, they will now be going to school, and another tranche will be at home. It's going to create a lot of problems for government. So I think we should be able to convince the VC that yes, maybe you think you're right, but this time round, just step aside.
Alaji, he should go.
Thank you very much. Let me first and foremost say good morning to your good selves too. Madam, I've not seen my sister for a very long time. She's still
you don't look
very,
for
very
her.
young and fresh.
You don't look for
And then
her.
Eric, as for Eric, I see him from TV, radio station to radio station. You are doing very well, especially when he has to defend very difficult, sometimes indefensible positions.
Really?
I don't envy him. It's a very unenviable job. But a good morning to all your viewers
and your constituency.
You see, let me see, and my good the good Blichina people of the Sanaro constituency. Let me see without any item of hesitation, and I heard Eric make an appeal that those in public should not speak.
I didn't say that.
He said
No,
it
I'm
should
saying
speak with
with
I'm not saying
responsibility. That's what he
I
said.
have not finished. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you didn't say they should not speak, but they should speak with some guarded caution.
Yes.
I almost construed it to mean you were trying to read some gagging orders.
No, not at all. I can't do that.
And then, yeah, because you see, Ghanaians, sometimes we have a penchant for burying our heads in the sand and not taking the issue as it is. If you are suffering in hell, blame death. If you send your son to the hereafter, you return, you won't recognize him. What is happening today is a product of what happened yesterday. It has its antecedents in the removal of Professor Avoke. And that is why I felt very sad that even when the induction ceremony was about to take place, His Excellency the President should not have attended it.
Well,
You see,
he
because
did
that is what
nothing wrong by
you see.
saying
I'm coming. Yes, the President may have meant well, but the signal that it sent to the current Vice Chancellor gives him like he now feels so empowered that he thinks he's an autocrat. He's a despot. He's not functioning within an academic milieu. And it's surprising that an academic of his stature should engage in such dictatorial tendencies. Within a period of less than 6 months, we are dismissing almost 30 people.
The council says that
You
they were
see,
dismissed.
yes,
We went through the
I'm
right
coming.
procedures.
I'm shaving you. I don't want to touch your head. You see, I'm saying that within 6 months, when did he take office for investigations to have commenced? For charges to have been preferred against all those people? For them to have had the opportunity to defend themselves? Large numbers of this kind? Come on, let's be very factual. You see, and all of you, if you look at it, and Eric made the point very eloquently, that even the treatment of students. And if you go there, many of them are adults. And so for me, if even academic institutions cannot exhaust due process, cannot give opportunity, adequate opportunity for people to defend themselves, even when allegations are made against them, and then you come and engage in such mass dismissals, I think you have polarized the university environment. He has polluted the environment. And I think in the current scheme of things, the Vice Chancellor's presence is not conducive to it's not good for a conducive atmosphere to be created for teaching and learning in the university. And I support UTAC position that he must go. I have drunk from the fountain of wisdom of my very good colleague, friend. He's my very good friend in Parliament, Honorable Afenyo Makis. Initially, when he started this thing, and some of us as friends told him that we thought that some of the distance. But today, he's being consistent. He says that Reverend Afobuni is far worse than Avoke, who was removed. He has said that today, that he is far worse. Even in terms of the allegations of malfeasance that were made against him, he has quadrupled the malfeasance within a short time, because he said the contracts that he has awarded within this short period of time. And yet, you have the effrontery to go against people who is saying what kind of academic infractions have they engaged in. So I think that yes, the university is semi-autonomous. It is under the aegis of a governing council and others. But if the governing council is becoming an obstacle to the solution of the problem, I think that the attitude of the governing council itself must be brought to the fore. For them to realize that, yes, I think that you are mandated, but the governing council itself is not an autocratic institution. It's not an institution that is not bound by law. All of them are bound by law. And I'm sure that we should invoke the necessary injunctions to ensure. I remember, for instance, when we had this problem at the KNUST, you know, His Eminence Otunfor had to use his collective influence and wisdom to bear, to find a solution. I think that the other traditional rulers and people who also have influence in those areas must bring their influence to bear, so that this recalcitrant Vice Chancellor, honestly, who is not amenable to persuasion or reason, I think we should be called to order, so that we can have a very sane. We cannot let a whole university with the lives of thousands of people be sacrificed on the pedestal of the interest of a Vice Chancellor and a few cohorts functioning in the governing council. I think that the destinies of the thousands of people and the university itself is more important than whatever they stand for. And I think that they should pipe down and let this prevail. I'm
grateful. Let's see how the demands of ETAC are responded to. On the Daily Graphic also, Cape Coast Hospital in distress threatens to deny NHIS card holders. This is a story that is well known. Non-payment of services rendered. If you take a look at the story, we're told that almost the whole of May to December 2018 is not being paid, and it involves huge sums of money. A well-known story as far as National Health Insurance scheme is concerned. Madam Rodayana, the NHIS and making sure it functions, we seem to be on and off. Today we have paid, tomorrow there's a problem. We're not handling it well.
That's the problem. Transparency. We don't know whether we've paid or we haven't, but we're always told that we have paid such huge sums of monies. And the truth of the matter is the National Health Insurance Scheme is not working well. Right now I know that some of them are not even giving out new cards and stuff like that. But I think that if we've tried something and it's not working, we should be able to take a second look at the structure of the National Health Insurance Scheme. I think that we should categorize the system. At the moment, there are some diseases that are covered, basic diseases like malaria and all that. That's covered under National Health Insurance. Why can't we categorize them to include other illnesses, but then you pay more premium? So that instead of people going into private insurance, you know, because when you look at it, most of our hospitals, like Korle Bu they have their equipment. And they have the expertise, most of them. The final port of call for anyone in this country is Korle Bu. So why can't we have categorization of the bronze holder, the silver holder, the gold holder, the platinum holder, basically going there for a certain form of treatment, so that if you need dialysis, for instance, or you need heart surgery, or you need all those ones that continuously TV3 appeals to the public for help, if you can afford it, you should be able to pay. It will still be cheaper than you as a private individual, you know, earning good money, paying for yourself. But if it's a form of national insurance where you can at least pay the premium, and when it gets to your turn, you get a good service, it might help us. Then we have a situation where a lot of the times too, it's the pharmacies. What kind of checks and balances do we have for the pharmacies? The importation of drugs, especially the pricing, the procurement procedures, how well do we actually do them? Because you see, most of the drugs that are, sometimes you go to these hospitals, you don't have a cough, but they still give you a cough mixture. You understand? Because somebody has procured the cough mixture because it's almost expiring from a pharmacy and then decides to let go of it. So I think that we should look at the structure of the National Health Insurance Scheme again. And then, if possible, we have the mutual ones that are in the districts. Probably we should strengthen those ones instead of putting it on a central pool. So
to allow people the opportunity to choose what they want.
What they want.
Or the scheme they want to be on.
I think that would help us, because you see, at the end of the day, everybody wants everything that is cheap. But then if it is not working, if government is not collecting enough, because at the end of the day, you get someone with just malaria, maybe running stomach and whatnot, but still goes to the hospital. They find that themselves at Korle Bu or Ridge, or instead of the smaller clinics and stuff like that. That is at an expense. There's too much wastage, I must say, in the administration of health in this country. Too many drugs are given for the wrong reasons. And like I'm saying, it's because there are too many tricks and too many corrupt practices where people link up with pharmacies, and then the pharmacies offload their almost expired drugs to the National Health Insurance Scheme, and then they take over those drugs and pay good money.
That was draining the system.
That's partly what's draining the system. And then also we have to ask ourselves, there's so many private hospitals coming up. These same doctors working in the state hospitals are the ones manning these private hospitals. They have patients that they see in their own private hospitals and then bring them into the state hospitals. That also is a drain in the Ministry of Health. So there's so much that we have to look at. But I think that the National Health Insurance Scheme hasn't done well. We cannot fool ourselves that it's working. Yes, people might be going there, but still, you go and you get the treatment, but you have to go out and buy the medication.
The medication.
So it's not working.
Eric, the Central Region Director of Health is suggesting that it is not only Cape Coast. He said that many of the health facilities in the region are still owed insurance claims dating as far back as 2016. That should be worrying. How do we deal with this?
I'm actually quite surprised that this is the first time I've heard about a facility that has purportedly been owed by the National Health Insurance for a while. Because I know, for a while. I'm not saying that. And of course, if the issues there are absolutely no underlying issues, then it has to be resolved. Because I know for a fact that this government, in the last 2 years alone, has paid close to 1 billion Ghana cedis to health facilities that were owed, some of them as far back as 2014. I know a little bit about the inner workings of the National Health Insurance, and sometimes these issues to do with claims have major issues. And Madam basically rightly pointed out some of the challenges that they face, where there are claims that are not in tandem with what even the policy actually is, where they have protocols. I'm not a medical person, but they have established protocols. Say, for instance, you come in with malaria, and their protocols tells you exactly what you're meant to do. But for some strange reason, most of these facilities actually do not, because some of these things in terms of the claims and all that. I know that some of the facilities that are actually hitched on the electronic claims system that they have are paid on time. They actually paid, I think, 80% or so, or 90% of their supposed claims. And then the system actually runs through the process, and normally they don't have any issues. So these particular ones would definitely have to be resolved. Issues to do with doctors and having private practices are things that, of course, needs to be investigated if it happens to be so. But again, it's always easy to sort of blame the political class because it's expedient. But if you even follow,
or perhaps
no, but even if you follow,
the class isn't telling us what the
but that's what I'm saying. I know for a fact, and I would clarify that after the program. I know for a fact that a lot of monies have been paid.
Yes, the president even said
yes,
that
and that even at the point where even the CHAG, which is the Christian Health whatever, in the past they were agitating all the time. That's what I'm saying. That I'm going to be honest with you. In the last 2 years or so, I haven't come across any story, and I've been here several times where a facility is actually coming out to say they haven't been paid. What it means is that some issues are ongoing there that needs to be resolved. It has to be resolved with dispatch so that services will be given and all of those things. But the truth of the matter is that the NHIS that we have today, vis-a-vis that what we had in the past, is improved. They even have electronic ways of actually renew your card and all of those things. Of course, it's not a perfect system. But you see, I get a bit worried when we even say that it is not working. Let me tell you something. It's a bit emotional, but it's fine. Let me tell you. In the past, we had a system called cash and carry. Now, just imagine that you're a parent and in the middle of the night, your son or your daughter or whatever, or a child or even somebody, a relative in the house is falling suddenly ill. If you don't have money, if you didn't have money at the time, the thought of going to the hospital even becomes a dreary experience. Now, we have a system in place that at least gives you that initial first aid that you require as a citizen of the state. Of course, there will be challenges, there will be issues, but you can never compare this particular system to a system.
But are we not getting there? If the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital says that we will deny cardholders care, are we not getting
yes,
back
that is what I'm saying,
what
that it shouldn't, it's probably akin to the same conversation that we are having with regards to the university issue. Cape Coast Hospital would have some kind of interaction or engagement with the National Health Authority management to come to a conclusion as to how best they would resolve the issues, even if it means that certain amounts of what is owed them is paid. Now, they're talking about 2018. Now, if we're talking about first or second quarter of 2018 and it hasn't been resolved, I know that there's some lapse period between when you put in your claims and then payments are made. There's also the infamous capitation thing that they try to do in terms of making sure that, okay, certain amounts of money are actually paid up front so that they can actually run the facility whilst the claims are being processed and all of those things. So for me, I think that while there are some issues, this is an isolated case. But if that needs resolved, it needs to be resolved.
Let me remind you that the regional health director says that many facilities in the region are still owed claims as far back as 2016, so it can be an isolated.
Yeah, but that is what I'm saying. But you see, we have thousands of facilities in the country. Now, it is also a fact that 1.2 billion Ghana cedis has been paid to the same facilities. So I'm saying that because you don't have the full picture in terms of visibility of what the issues are. I'm saying that there can be some isolated or peculiar challenges with these particular facilities. And I've mentioned some of the issues that have transpired. Remember, there was an incident in Takoradi where a facility, the doctor and an assistant also actually had to be prosecuted and all that. There's so many issues of that nature. So I'm saying that because healthcare is important, and regardless of what it is, if an individual, a citizen of this country, loses their life by virtue of the fact that the state is not able to provide the basic things that they're meant to do, it is wrong. So that should be resolved. But I'm saying that it also doesn't take away from the fact that the National Health Insurance as we speak today is much better than the one that we came to inherit.
I'm grateful. Alaji, should we treat this as an isolated case?
By no stretch of any imagination. And I disagree with my brother Eric. And Eric knows that this can never be an isolated issue. You see, if you do politics with the healthcare, the non-payment of the health insurance claims will expose you. You see, it is important, especially in matters of this. And Madam made allusions to that very eloquently about transparency. Let's endeavor to be very transparent about some problems in our healthcare delivery system. Everybody knows for a fact that arrears going as far back, some as to 2016. In fact, in Parliament, where I sit, in interactions with the health committee members and others, they tell you that even some healthcare service providers still come to try and get the health committee to go to intercede for them. That some of the claims as far back as 2016 are still not paid as we speak. So notwithstanding the claims that we've had, and His Excellency the President has mentioned it in his State of the Nation address, the Finance Minister in the budget has come and created the impression that they have cleared all arrears. Chief, it's far from the truth. And this is no, I am telling you that if you were to open your lines right now and ask healthcare providers to call in and state their level of indebtedness, I'm telling you, some of them will carry you back to even 2016, 2017, 2018, which has still not been paid in millions of Ghana cedis as we speak. So you see, I've been saying this: if you transform your donkey into a horse, on the day the race is called, it will be exposed for the ass that it is. If it is clear that the monies are outstanding, we have not paid them, and arrears have been with us for quite some time. It will be unfair to just say that arrears started and ends with only this government. Arrears have been there. Yeah, but let us be honest enough to admit that these arrears are there because maybe the state doesn't have the requisite level of resources to be able to pay. And sadly enough, under Eric's party and government, you know what they have done to even deny National Health Insurance Authority funds? They have capped their allocations. National Health Insurance, Get Fund, and this other one, the three statutory, have all been capped. Which means that resources that should have fully gone to the authority to enable them take care of all this, including the payment of this, have been cut by over close to 1/3 and sent to the Finance Ministry. And so the other one is the District Assembly Common Fund.
Assembly Common Fund.
Yes, they have all been capped as part of the earmarking and capping of statutory funds. So you see, you cannot carry twist. They are adding locks to it. That is the tragedy that we face.
No, Eric,
Eric, I am telling you that the truth of the matter, Eric. I'm sure. I'm surprised that you are surprised because this is something that is clear. You know it. That the level of funding. If you go to the National Health Insurance Authority this morning, you go and find out. Talk to them.
They don't even have.
They'll tell you that even the level of funds available to them, there's a paucity of funds. They don't. You see, and then secondly, to compound the problem, the intermittent nature of the releases. The Finance Ministry sometimes can take more than a quarter to release the previous 2 quarters. I sit in Parliament and I know that after every year, when the Finance Minister comes to read the budget and we go to do a review, an appraisal of the previous year's budget, some ministry, department and agencies sometimes don't get up to half of their allocation. So sometimes people hear that, oh, they have allocated the special prosecutor 18 million Ghana cedis. Wait until the end of the year, he may not even get 5 or 6 million. So the allocation is different. Health Insurance Authority. Ask them what quantum of resources are available to them to meet the challenges that are
okay, coming. Let me get Madam in before I come to Eric. Eric, I'll come to you. Madam Brother, so it could, you actually drew up quite some challenges, but he's suggesting that perhaps the authorities didn't get enough resources to pay for these.
And that's why I'm saying we should be able to categorize it. So that if the state is going to go, say, for this, the ordinary NHIS, the categorization will then bring more funding. Because if you have people paying more, other people paying more, definitely you will get more money. You see, we should not look at the fact that people go to the hospital. Yes, they do go to the hospital. But when you go to the hospital, you see a doctor. That should not count as the NHIS is working, because you must be able to access your drugs. But you can see a doctor and you go to the pharmacy and there are no drugs, so you have to buy. That's also cash and carry. And that is a major problem. You do have a card, yes. You get to the hospital. Seeing a doctor because you have the card is guaranteed. But as to whether you'll get the drugs, it's another question. Because you go to the pharmacy and there are no drugs. You have to go out of your way to go and buy. So those are some of the things. So I'm saying that if government alone cannot handle the funding of the scheme, then they must find another way of getting funds. And that other way is to appeal to the affluent in society, and also to people who know that, look, I am prone to these kinds of diseases, probably I might not be able to pay, but I'll be ready to take an insurance that will guarantee me this kind of treatment, so that at least every month I'm paying something. This is what I am thinking, that they must find ways and means of getting more funding for themselves.
Eric, this problem could be, like Alhaji is suggesting, the fact that the authorities not getting enough funding to pay claims.
I totally disagree. I mean,
that is funding?
I'm sort of trying to restrict myself from being too political. Listen, we know the NHIS today, the state of the NHIS today, and the NHIS that the MPP government came to inherit. Now, you're a media person, you should know, every single week you would have a facility or two threatening to actually go on strike, even pharmacies. As we speak today, it is not happening. And I'm saying that is not to say that there are no challenges in the system. Listen, even the best healthcare, let me make my point.
Could it be an inadequate resource challenge this time?
It could be anything, but I'm saying that even the best run systems in the world, I lived in England, every day they complain about the NHS.
Is that why there should be a problem?
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so let's deal with
the biggest conversation in the US at the time when Obama was president was on healthcare. And I'm saying that you would have challenges anyway. But the system today, as we speak, of course, if she talks about funding and finding alternative ways of actually funding the NHIS, actually thinking outside of the box, and people who can pay, so that the plethora of services that is given to you is different in terms of either you have a platinum card or a silver card or a gold card, like happens in a private healthcare. We can consider those things. It's not set in stone. But to even suggest a minute that what is transpiring today is as a result of a lack of funds, it's not the case. And I'm saying that 1.2 billion dollars. But that's what I'm saying. This is a peculiar challenge that is coming from Cape Coast Hospital, and I'm saying that
from 2016.
No, but it could be. So how come that 1.2 billion, for instance, have been paid, and Cape Coast, for instance, is having challenges? I'm saying that it's imperative that the issues are investigated. What is actually happening in that particular area should be investigated and dealt with. I'm not actually going to sit here and say that if for one reason or the other a citizen of this country either loses their life or affected, it's a good thing. But the NHIS is much better today than the one that we inherited.
Look, today as you speak, they can't even issue new cards.
It's not true. They're even using digital means. No, it's not true. It is not true. It is not true at all. It is not. Today, the NHIS is actually
that they are owed millions of Ghana cedis. Family teaching hospital, all the other health providers, they are going to fund it. And I'm just saying that, look, like Madam said, why should somebody like me, like Eric, be made to enjoy the scheme? Because we can pay. Eric can pay. I can pay.
I'm grateful.
So you see, this government, they are not amenable to wise counsel. If they were, they have seen that even the same
Parliament Communications Committee and MP for Sagniru, Alhaji ABA Fuseni, Madam Rodayana is a former vice chair of the CPP and a member of the Central Committee, and Eric Chum is a member of the MPP. So I'm grateful, gentlemen and lady, for your time this morning. Stay with us.